how can simply listening, without offering a single counterargument, completely shift someone's certainty about a deeply held belief?
But the truth, and this is what's so powerful in the research you shared with us, is that the real change engine is silence, radical attention, and this specific skill set we call active listening.
Welcome back to the Future of Thought, where we take these complex skills, skills usually reserved for therapists or diplomats, and we really try to distill them down
To their practical high-leverage components so you can actually apply them today.
And today, we are doing a full exploration of the one skill that can transform adversarial conversations into collaborative ones, active listening.
Our mission today is to unpack a really common cognitive blind spot. Why almost everyone believes they are a good listener when, statistically, they're often just listening for a pause.
An opportunity to jump in.
Right, for an interruption or for a mistake in the other person's logic. We're going way beyond the basic nodding and eye contact. We're aiming to give you a shortcut to mastering the psychological architecture that powers trust building, conflict de-escalation, and ethical persuasion.
And just so you know, all the detailed underlying research, including the AI persona that helped process these findings, and all the source documents, they're available in the Substack. There's a link in the description below.
Okay.
So let's unpack this. The term active listening, it feels like it's been so diluted. You Google it, you just get these platitudes. Nod your head, don't interrupt.
They're just behaviors.
They're behaviors, but they don't capture the spirit of the practice. So what's the definition that really separates that kind of casual politeness from transformative communication?
The superior definition we pulled from the sources is this. Active listening is the deliberate practice of giving someone the experience of being profoundly understood.
The experience.
Yes, understood in their specific factual meaning, and, crucially, understood in their underlying emotional context. It's not about following a checklist. It's about generating a specific felt reality for the other person, a reality where they feel psychologically safe.
So if the goal is creating that experience of safety and profound understanding, how do we structure our attention? Let's walk through the 3 essential layers that build up to that level of deep understanding.
Okay, so we start with the absolute foundation, presence. This is the psychological baseline, and it's probably the hardest part for most people in our, distracted world.
I believe it.
Presence means total attention. No checking your phone, no multitasking, and critically, no mental rehearsal of your reply.
That's the one.
That's the one. When you completely stop formulating your response, your body language shifts, and you communicate safety to the other person's subconscious mind.
That makes sense. Stop rehearsing your argument. So what's the next layer once you're actually present?
Next is interpretation. This is the heavy lifting, the cognitive layer. You are actively trying to reconstruct the person's inner picture, their argument, their worldview, their story, using the building blocks of their language.
So you're building a map of their mind, in a way.
In a way, yes. It involves internalizing what they said, paraphrasing, clarifying, and constantly checking your understanding against their intent.
And the final piece.
The third is reflection. And this validates the human element. You reflect both the meaning and the emotion back to them. You're affirming that their experience matters, that their feelings are valid in that moment, even if you ultimately disagree with their conclusion.
Presence, interpretation, and reflection.
Those 3 layers are what elevate listening from just a passive receipt of information to an active engagement with another mind.
Okay, I want to challenge that a little bit. It sounds like a lot of work. So how and why does this high level of attunement actually work on a psychological level? How do these 3 layers fundamentally shift the dynamic compared to just a typical, surface level conversation?
What's truly fascinating here is that this kind of deeply attuned listening meets 3 core human psychological needs almost instantly.
Okay, what are they?
The need to be seen, the need to be understood, and the need to be taken seriously. In a world full of performative communication, those needs are almost never met.
Right.
So when they are met, the sources show us that the person's defensiveness drops immediately. It's almost a chemical reaction. And their cognitive openness increases. They shift from a defensive posture to a reflective one.
So you're literally moving them out of a reaction mode. Is there a neurological mechanism at play here?
Oh, absolutely. We have compelling neuroscience insights supporting this. A typical high-stakes conversation or, disagreement, it often triggers the amygdala.
The brain's threat detector?
The threat detection and protective center.
Yeah.
And when the amygdala is activated, your executive functions, things like critical reasoning, planning, self-reflection, they're sidelined. It's all fight or flight. Active listening, specifically that non-judgmental reflection of emotion, sends a safety signal that reduces that amygdala activation.
So you are basically telling their ancient threat detection system, you are safe here, you don't need to fight.
That's it. By decreasing that protective mode, you increase activity in the brain's social cognition networks. You're literally helping someone shift their mental resources from defense to reflection.
Wow.
And this is why these techniques are the backbone of effective mediation, trauma therapy, and, as we'll get into, methods of collaborative inquiry. It's not just being polite, it's a form of applied neurological regulation.
That reframes the entire skill. It gives us a scientific reason to slow down and actually listen. If you are finding this exploration useful and appreciate us breaking down these high leverage skills here on The Future of Thought, please just take a moment right now, click like, subscribe, and ring the bell.
It helps us tremendously in bringing you more of these actionable breakdowns.
It really does. Now that we understand the psychological foundation shifting the brain from protective to reflective, we can move on to the actual tools. So what are the 5 core techniques that move conversations from, say, transactional to truly transformative?
These are the verbal maneuvers that put presence and interpretation into practice. We start with the most basic, yet maybe the most difficult, paraphrasing.
Okay.
This is simply restating their meaning, but critically, in your own words, not just echoing them. This proves you actually process the content, and it forces you to confirm your own assumptions.
Can you give us a really clear example that highlights the power of that?
Sure. If someone says, this new policy is terrible, and the management is totally out of touch, you don't jump in to defend management. A strong paraphrase would be something like, so if I'm hearing you right, the core concern isn't just the mechanics of the policy, but maybe the communication style around it. That it made you feel excluded and unheard.
Ah, I see. That avoids assuming they hate the policy itself, and it targets the feeling, the injury. What about when their statement is really vague or, highly charged?
That's where clarifying questions come in. They invite precision without applying pressure, which is key. Instead of challenge their statement, you challenge the clarity of their terms.
Oh, so?
Well, if they say, the system is fundamentally broken, you can ask, when you say fundamentally broken, what specific part of it is failing the most for you right now? This encourages them to define their own terms, which honestly often helps them structure their own rationale.
And then there's the emotional layer you mentioned, the reflection component. How do we reflect a feeling without sounding like we're, analyzing them, like a therapist?
That requires reflecting emotions skillfully. It means naming the feelings you observe without attributing a motive. You could say, that sounds frustrating, especially after you put so much work into that first draft. Or it seems like you felt blindsided when that change was announced.
It validates their reality.
It validates their internal reality, the fact that they feel this way, which is often way more important than agreeing on the premise of the feeling itself.
Okay, so in a long conversation, one that covers a lot of complex points, which happens all the time in high-stakes discussions, how do we keep the whole thing from feeling disjointed?
That's when you need summarizing themes. This connects the dots across multiple separate points. You might pause and say, okay, I've heard 3 different examples, the budget, the deadline, and the team structure. Across everything you've shared, it seems like the common thread connecting all these is a concern about resource allocation and maybe whether we trust leadership's plan.
That brings structure.
It brings structure and scope to their internal experience. And finally, the last technique, just don't rush. Use pausing. Silence is not a conversational void. It's an essential invitation for processing, for self-correction, or for deeper disclosure.
So these 5 techniques together create that deep environment of safety and structure. And that is necessary for self-reflection, which brings us to the methodology that really relies on active listening as its superpower engine. Street Epistemology, or SE. For our listener who might be hearing this term for the first time, what is SE?
Street epistemology is a collaborative, evidence-based method focused on examining the justification for deeply held beliefs, rather than, say, attacking the beliefs themselves. And while SE uses a structured line of questioning, active listening is the engine running under the whole thing.
So its first role is always creating that safety.
Always. Creating psychological safety.
And how is that safety created in a system that's designed to inspect what can be really sensitive beliefs?
SE practitioners use active listening to build instant rapport and signal non-judgment. They understand that without safety, all you have is a debate, not an inquiry.
Right.
And by reflecting back everything the person says accurately, the practitioner helps to facilitate revealing the real reasons behind their confidence. People initially offer up the reasons they think will sound good.
The sound bites.
The sound bites. The process of listening and clarifying helps them encounter their actual reasoning processes. It forces them to sit with their own words as if they're hearing them for the first time.
And this is where that concept of aporia comes in, that moment where certainty starts to wane, that reflective pause where someone realizes, I'm not as certain as I thought. This is often seen as the goal of SE. So how and why is aporia achieved without the interviewer resorting to gotchas or aggressive pressure?
Aporia emerges organically. It happens because of the consistent, careful application of active listening. Imagine someone asserts that, say, a historical event happened a certain way based on something they heard years ago. By just paraphrasing their evidence clearly and asking clarifying questions like, on a scale of 0 to 100, how confident are you in the truth of that specific source? You're simply holding up a mirror. Aporia arises when they hear their own justification reflected back, recognize its weakness, and realize the certainty they felt was, disproportionate to the quality of the evidence.
Yes. So the active listener is just the facilitator of the internal critique, not the critic.
That's it. The change comes from within them. This process also models epistemic humility. The practitioners, they don't judge the beliefs or pretend to have superior knowledge. They model humility, the recognition that all human knowledge is provisional.
And that invites the other person to be humble too.
It invites reciprocal humility, and it dramatically reduces that sense of reactance, that natural tendency to push back against perceived correction. And that, in turn, facilitates self-correction. People revise their own confidence because they feel safe enough to inspect their own reasoning.
Hearing it clearly reflected back.
A mirror, not a hammer. And, if what we're discussing, this method of navigating beliefs through collaborative, respectful questioning, if that resonates with you, remember, you can put this into practice today. You can take the free, in-depth Street Epistemology course at navigatingbeliefs.com.
All right, let's make this actionable for you. This isn't just theory for abstract debates. It's a skill you can start drilling today in any conversation. What are some simple, high-leverage exercises we can use right away based on the training methods and the sources?
The key is to add a constraint. First, try the one-sentence paraphrase. After someone shares something meaningful, force yourself to limit your reply to a single sentence that captures the main idea using only your own words.
Oh, that's hard.
It's very hard. It forces you to ignore tangents and focus on the central message before you even think about formulating your own response.
That seems incredibly difficult to maintain in practice, but the focus it would require would be tremendous. Okay, what's the second exercise?
The emotion plus meaning reflection. This forces you to reflect both the cognitive and the affective layers we talked about. For instance, rather than just repeating facts, you combine them. You might say, it sounds like this mattered to you so much because it fundamentally challenged your sense of professional autonomy.
So you're acknowledging both the facts and the internal injury.
You are. And what about for longer exchanges or when trust is low?
Yeah.
Use the summary reset. At any natural turning point in a conversation, when you're shifting topics or making a decision, just pause and say, let me just pause and summarize everything I've heard so far, just to make sure I have it right.
That's a great tool.
It acts as a conversational checkpoint. It dramatically enhances mutual understanding, and it deepens trust so rapidly because you are proving your ongoing commitment to their message.
That clarity alone would be an amazing tool for de-escalation. So let's wrap this up with the big picture. Why is active listening the most underrated skill of the 21st century? Why does this matter more now than ever before?
Well, we are swimming in a sea of information overload, tribal alignment, and frankly, algorithmic acceleration that's designed to keep us separate. The rarest skill isn't access to information anymore. It's the collaborative ability to make sense of information together. Active listening is the immediate antidote to polarization, to rampant miscommunication, to conversational dominance, and to performative debate.
It is the leverage point. It's the thing that changes the entire game.
It really is. It's the tool that turns arguments into collaboration and transforms disagreements into curiosity. Whether you are a leader managing a team, a parent communicating with a teenager, or just trying to understand the news your neighbor consumes, mastering this is the foundation of robust human connection.
So master active listening for richer, sturdier relationships, model it for clearer conversations, and use it ethically to think together about what truly matters. Our whole discussion today about aporia and epistemic humility, it really suggests that the power to shift perspectives lies not in arguing, but in the radical vulnerability of genuine curiosity. And we want to hear from you. Considering what we discussed about active listening, specifically the way it models epistemic humility, what's one way you think simply reflecting someone's viewpoint accurately, without judgment, could immediately improve the conversations you have online? Start a conversation about the future of thought in the comments section below.